as you and your team are working through your data in PhoneBurner, if you're a standalone team, what you're going to end up with, for those of you who don't know, let me just back up a little bit here. So with PhoneBurner, you have two different ways that you can configure your database. One is network, where there's one database. Everybody just has different access points to that database, but everybody essentially sees the same contacts, the same folders. Another option is what's called standalone, where everybody on the team essentially has their own database. And that is a really common and popular setup for teams, especially if you're using LeadStream, and more importantly, like RoundRobin LeadStreams, right? So you're distributing data out to your team members, and each team member is kind of managing their own database, their list of contacts that they're following up with and they're working. And what can happen with a standalone database is you can run into a situation where somebody may end up with a bunch of older contacts that they just don't care about in their system anymore. So let's take, for example, Heather. I just logged into Heather's account, and you can see she's got two contacts in her today's follow-ups folder. One of them has a today's follow-up of today, and the other one has a follow-up date that is almost 3 weeks past due, right? So this is, again, this is just a very minimal example. Your team would probably have 5, 10, 15, 20 follow-ups a day. This would start to get really, really crowded in here. But just to keep things simple for this demo, what you're seeing here is you're going to have data that's getting older in the system. And Heather might say, you know what, I'm done. Like I've made X number of calls to this contact. They're not responding to me anymore. I'm done. I want to give this back to the admin. And there's a couple different ways that these older records could get back into the admin account. One of those would be that we activate the ability for Heather to be able to transfer contacts from her account to the admin account. And sometimes that's not something that you want to enable for an individual user. And as you can see, I've got it turned off for Heather. Let me turn it on real quick. So I'm going to go back to the admin. I'm going to edit Heather. And we're going to turn on the ability to transfer contacts. So once I've turned that on, let's log back in as Heather. And let me show you the steps that it would take for Heather to be able to transfer contacts back to the admin or someone else, right? So she's got to select those records. She's got to go to Actions, Transfer. She's got to choose the team member she wants to transfer to. Hopefully, most likely it's just the admin, but it could be any user. And then she's got to choose a specific folder that she wants to transfer that contact to, right? Then she clicks transfer, and then she's got to confirm that she really wants to transfer that contact or those contacts. So lots of different clicks. And in some cases, that's what you want to do. But another problem with that, in addition to the clicks, is if there's a specific folder you want those contacts to be transferred into, like into the transfer to admin folder, what happens if she chooses the wrong folder? Now you've got leads that you got to find. There's a whole process, right? So there's an opportunity for human error here. Another option is, okay, I don't want my team members transferring because I don't want them to screw something up, right? So the other option is, as an admin, I could use the advanced search, and I could even create a saved search to make this happen a little bit faster, to simplify this process for myself. But I could come in here and say, you know what, I'm looking for all contacts that have a follow-up date that's older than 7 days and is in one of my team members' accounts or all of my team members' accounts, whatever options I want to choose. And so here we go. I can find that same contact. I could then select those contacts, use the administrative actions to either move it, transfer and move it into a specific folder in the admin account, or I could transfer it to a specific user. And again, there's lots of clicks here. And this is something that I have to do as an admin. Now, this could be a process that I follow every week, every day, every month, just to kind of go through and clean data up in my team members' accounts. But there is a better way. And that's what we're going to get into on this training here. Is I'm going to walk you through how you can build a round-robin lead stream in your PhoneBurner account that would allow your reps to essentially send data back to you as an admin. They would just be a matter of them just moving the contacts into a specific folder. And so let me show you how that would be done. So from the admin account, in the contact manager, I'm going to click on this little gear here, and I'm going to go down to LeadStream. Hopefully you watched all the other videos and you know that you can save this LeadStream page as a quick find, so you can get here faster from anywhere within your account. But now we're going to go ahead and create a new LeadStream. I'm going to name this this LeadStream. Let's go ahead and name it transfer to admin. Let me copy that name. And let's give it a description of. So the description is, this LeadStream is built to allow my team to transfer records from their account and put them into the nurture LeadStreams. Again, for those of you who've been following along on all of the training that's part of this LeadStream training module, we created a nurture LeadStream that we have assigned our team members to that will allow them to call contacts and then they will recycle every 30 days. That way, if for contacts that are not responding anymore, they've gone dark or they just have never responded to anything, we can keep reaching out to them, but we're not calling them too often. I tend to refer to that as a nurture campaign or a nurture LeadStream in this particular case. And so we want to allow our team members, everybody on our team, the ability to essentially dump older contacts that they just don't want to chase anymore into that nurture campaign. And so the type of LeadStream that we're going to create is what's called a RoundRobin LeadStream, because we don't want any individual to have to do an action to kick this off outside of just moving them into that bucket. So we're going to choose RoundRobin as the type, and then we're going to choose a distribution folder. In this case, we're going to create a folder. Let's just name it transfer to admin, and I'm going to click OK. And when it comes to the receiving folder, we're going to create a new receiving folder. We're going to call this transfer to admin RCV. So it's the receiving folder for the transfer to admin. And then the last thing that we're going to do, or we could lock this. It's really not necessary because in this particular case, we're only going to distribute to the admin account. And so it's not going to be necessary to lock it, but we could lock it if we wanted to just make sure that we don't screw anything up in the future. And then when it comes to the recycle folder, right, so that gets the contact out of the individual users, puts it into the admin account in the receiving folder, and then we need to choose where that contact's going to go once whatever time limit has passed. So for example, the nurture calls. In this particular case, we're moving them into the nurture calls. And we could move them in there as soon as 10 hours. When it comes to a RoundRobin LeadStream, the minimum recycle time is 10 hours on this. And that's to protect you from yourself. We don't want you to distribute something to somebody and only give them a few minutes to work it and then potentially take it back and then redistribute it. So we want to make sure you're giving everybody at least 10 hours. But rather than doing 10 hours, I'm going to do 1 day. That way it'll sit in that receiving folder for a day, and then it'll move on into our distribution folder for our nurture calls. And of course you could put 30 days in there. So you're like, hey, I don't know how long it's been since all of these contacts have been called, but I know we want to make sure it's been at least 30 days. So you could potentially put a 30-day recycle time on there. Again, totally up to you. We don't have to care about from the time it was last called, because once it's distributed, we're going to start that clock and we're just going to let that clock run down. We don't care about the sorting. We're not going to do any custom sorting on this one. It's just going to recycle and get put into the LeadStream. And we don't need to worry about hiding the total lead number. So let's go ahead and click on Add Recipients. And when we're adding recipients, we only need to add the admin. We don't need to add the individual users because the individual users are not receiving any of this data directly through this LeadStream. They might receive something from here indirectly once it gets recycled into another LeadStream, but we're not directly delivering this to any other team members. We're just using this to process this data in the admin account. And we're not going to put any lead limits, no daily lead limit at all for this. We just want to process everything that gets put in there. So we're going to add recipient. That's going to add the admin to this lead stream. And we are now set to take advantage of this. But how do we take advantage of this, right? So what is the process for taking advantage of this, right? Because now it's in the user account. They've got to get leads into that transfer to admin folder. Remember, we've got that distribution folder of the transfer to admin. We want to give them a way to put those leads into the transfer to admin folder. So let me show you what we have to do for that. So first thing we need to do, because that's a distribution folder, that folder is not going to be shared by default. So when we go to this folders page, the manage folders page, you'll see that new transfer to admin folder. We're going to go ahead and share that folder. We could also unshare or stop sharing the transfer to admin receiving because they don't need to see that folder. But we could leave it active if we wanted. But now let's go to the team tab. Let's log in as Heather. And now all Heather has to do is she just needs to, she has a couple of different options. She could select all, go to move, and she could drop that contact into the transfer to admin folder. Or she could even drag and drop. Transfer to admin, drop it. And what you'll notice is that record disappears. Like she doesn't see that record anymore. If we return to the admin account, go to contacts, go to the transfer to admin, we don't see it there. That's because it was immediately put into the transfer to admin receiving folder in the admin account, and that has a recycle time, in this case 24 hours, at which point that record is going to get moved into the nurture calls folder, which is the distribution folder for our nurture calls lead stream. And once that happens, anybody on our team who's initiating a dial session from the nurture calls lead stream would potentially call this contact. Of course, it all depends on the settings for that specific lead stream. So anyway, that is just one way that you can configure your account in PhoneBurner to simplify the process and standardize the process of how older leads that your team is just done chasing at their individual account level, how they can send those records back to the admin account and have them get put into another lead stream. Of course, you don't have to put them into another lead stream, and it could be different types of lead streams. Totally up to you how you deal with those, and you can create different folders and different lead streams for different types of leads that you want your team to essentially get rid of. So anyway, thanks for taking a moment to watch this video. I hope this video helps you and your organization get more done in less time using the power of PhoneBurner. Thanks again, and happy dialing.